Stitch the movie was the first of 3 straight-to-DVD Lilo and Stitch sequels, the others being Lilo and Stitch 2 Stitch Has a Glitch, and Leroy and Stitch. However, despite one of them literally having the number 2 in the title, this one actually came first, coming out in summer 2003, which was barely a year after the first. It intended to set up the Lilo and Stitch TV series, which started airing the same year. It's also one of the shortest straight-to-DVD sequels Disney has done, clocking in at only an hour. Now, this is coming from someone who loved the original Lilo and Stitch. I love the stuff with Lilo and Nani, I likes the gay aliens, I love the art style, the setting, the animation, and also Stitch himself. He's cute, but he's also the strongest thing in existence, pretty much. I swear, this guy could solo every single Marvel villain in a fight. You'd probably expect Gantu to be the main villain of Stitch the movie, considering he was retired by the Grand Councilwoman at the end of the first movie, right? Well, kinda? You know what, let's dive into this movie to see if it's a spaceship worth riding in. The movie immediately kicks off in space where we're reintroduced to Captain Gantu. He's working for a new original villain by the name of Dr. Hamster Wheel. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant Dr. Hamster Veal. And he tasks Gantu with going down to Earth. The characters from the first movie are at the seaside.
Hang loose!
Whatever.
Also, holy moly, it's the cat from the DVD cover. Noticeably, Lilo is not there, and that's because she's preparing Stitch to make some new friends. It doesn't go very well. He scares the hell out of a child, and he ruins a volleyball game, and he accidentally starts a fire. Chaos at its finest.
Hey, that's my chainsaw.
Wait, why does David even have a chainsaw in the first place? What is that guy hiding? Anyway, nobody likes Stitch, and this upsets Lilo because he doesn't fit in. Kind of like her. The animation is noticeably a downgrade, but it was always going to be. There's no way it's going to be as good as a $100 million plus budget animated movie done by the main studio. Basically, it's early 2000s TV animation, and it's noticeable as kind of stiff at times, but I think it works fine for this movie. It does retain the art style and the gorgeous watercolor backgrounds from the first movie. Also, this movie has an incredibly fast pace to it so far. They know this is an hour long. Kinda makes me wish it was longer. Anyway, later at Lilo's house, Stitch is upset too, and he receives encouragement from her when she tells him she's been through similar things.
I'm freaky.
Careful, Stitch. Somebody might misinterpret that statement horribly, considering how some people use that word nowadays.
You're one of a kind. Like Frankenstein. Oh.
No, I'm pretty sure you're thinking of Jumbo.
I guess they're okay, but I think Pleakley tries on my clothes.
Wait, you didn't notice this before? Stitch goes to see Jumbo and Stitch is told that he has no cousins, trust me bro, no cap. He didn't say that last bit exactly, obviously, but you get the idea. And then immediately Gantu shows up, already. But he isn't there for Stitch. He's instead there for Jumbo, who keeps trying to hand something to Pleakley, but something in the bag falls out. Also, this bit's really funny.
Very funny.
Big fat meanie.
Wow, Lilo, that's a bit unnecessary. You didn't have to do him like that. Anyway, Jumbo locks Pleakley in a footlocker to keep it safe. As Jumbo is being kidnapped, it's revealed that he used to work with Dr. Hamster Veal. So, Lilo and Stitch decide to hotwire Jumbo's spaceship in order to chase after Gantu, in none other than space, where we're greeted with some actually really good-looking CGI. It does a good job of looking 2D while being, you know, 3D. This entire scene surprisingly well animated. Anyway, they fail miserably and their ship runs out of power.
I think we're out of gas.
Yeah, some of the jokes here are really hit or miss. You can kind of tell the movie's playing to an even younger audience than the first did, which I guess is kind of fair. Anyway, they free Pleakley from the footlocker and they find out that that device contains every single experiment that was made. Except, you know, the one that fell out earlier. It's also explained that they function like the Mega Man dehydration cube, where they take a form like Stitch if they get wet. Also, I like this face Pleakley's pulling. Pleakley locks it away so Lilo and Stitch can't get to it, and specifically tells them not to get it wet. So naturally, they get it wet. Before that, Nanny comes home and is told everything by Lilo, and there's a joke that made me laugh way harder than it should have here.
I thought you said I had nothing to worry about.
I was locked in a footlocker.
And why are you wearing my favorite t-shirt? It's not even your color.
The most Nanny can do to help is calling the absolute legend of his agent Cobra Bubbles, who is unfortunately sleeping. In case if you can tell so far, this movie focuses entirely on the alien side of things. And you know what? I don't mind. It expands upon a concept that was established in the first movie. Stitch is the 626th experiment, so what are the other 625 gonna be then? Anyway, the experiment they free is this yellow thing with electrical powers that is pretty much just Pikachu, so I'm going to refer to it as Pikachu till a certain point. Anyway, it immediately ditches them. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, in space, Jumbo is confronted by Dr. Hamsterville. We get the first use of the running joke he has, where his name is mispronounced and somebody calls him Hamster Wheel instead, which I guess is kind of funny at first, but it really wears out after the first couple uses of it.
Ah, Dr. Jacques von Hamster Wheel.
Hamsterville! It is Hamsterville!
However, I like the visual gag where he has to stand on loads of books to get to the same height as Jumbo. Anyway, they release Experiment 625, who eventually ends up being known as Reuben, who loves sandwiches. He's also probably like one of my favorite characters in this entire franchise. He's so awesome that he even got referenced in the new live-action movie.
Funny thing, 625 has all powers of 626, even has advanced language programming. Unfortunately, he's also a lazy coward.
Wow, he does not care that he was just insulted, he's just chilling. Seriously though, don't disrespect Reuben like that. Meanwhile, Lilo and Stitch are looking for Pikachu, and we get our obligatory Myrtle appearance at the movie. Remember Myrtle? She's the girl Lilo beat up in the first two movies. It was kinda deserved, I won't lie.
You're crazy.
Anyway, apparently her hula group lied about being sick just so they didn't have to invite Lilo, which is a pretty freaking horrible thing to do. You'd probably think she'd try beating up Myrtle again, but instead, she decides to threaten her.
You and your disconfigured dog are total freaks. Yeah! You can spit acid on him if you want to.
I mean, it's still not the worst thing they could have done to her. So anyway, Lilo and Stitch return home. Can I just say I love the running animation here, it looks so silly. Nani catches them and chases them, and they manage to get away this time. At least there's no washing machine involved. Wiggly manages to call Jumbo, but Hamsterville gets a hold of the phone, wanting all 624 other experiments as a ransom, in exchange for Jumbo.
I will then tell you the ransom exchange location and call you many nasty names. Ha ha! Hang that up.
Wow, he's really over the top. The next day, the chat Cobra Bubble shows up, somehow still voiced by Ving Rhames, and he immediately knows everything that's going on. He warns them to not take any further action. So of course, Lilo and Stitch actually comply and don't take any further action. Nah, I'm just messing with you, of course they steal his car. So they're detectives now, trying to figure out Pikachu's location, and hooray, it's the ice cream guy from the first. Oh. So they search all around the island, and whoa, until they reach the hotel where Pikachu is. Anyway, Stitch confronts him, and they somehow end up wrapping him in a vase. Back at home, Stitch bonds with Pikachu, who is actually called Sparky now, and he sees him as his cousin. Yeah, I kind of forgot to mention this at the start of the movie, but Lilo said something about everybody calling each other cousins.
In Hawaii, everybody calls each other cousin. Not because we're all related, but because we're one big Ohana. One happy family.
So I think they mean that he's not literally related to Stitch, and that he's metaphorically his cousin. I mean, I f***ing hope so. Lilo wants to give Sparky to Hamsterville in exchange for Jumbo, but Stitch refuses to let that happen, so she just goes along with what Stitch wants. Like I said, they only have an hour for this. Hamsterville calls and tells Pleakley and Cobra to go to the lighthouse where the exchange will take place. When they get to the lighthouse, they hint that it hasn't been lit in years. Gee, I sure do wonder if something will be done about that by the end of the movie. The CGI spaceship arrives again, but Hamsterville immediately notices that one experiment is missing. Geez, he's rather demanding, isn't he? Also, Nani just basically leaves for the rest of the movie. Also, they reused this shot from earlier, which reminds me, fun fact, this movie is actually censored in the UK due to these moments where Stitch uses electrical wires. Yeah, apparently it would have been rated PG as opposed to U if they hadn't have cut it. Anyway, at the lighthouse, Lilo must make the incredibly difficult decision to either hand over Sparky to get one of her best friends back, or to just not hand him over and let her friend get killed. Seems like an easy choice, right?
You fail to comprehend the complexity of the situation.
Okay, why did that line go kind of hard?
Do you want your Jumbo or not?
Damn, even the villain thinks this is a bad idea. Well, she actually refuses to hand Sparky over because he's family, and Hamsterville responds to this by having Gantu shoot at Stitch instead of Jumbo, who you know was supposed to be exchanged for the experiments that they didn't receive. Yeah, this part's kinda dumb.
Stay calm, we're completely safe here.
Why did that make me laugh? It's revealed that the Grand Councilwoman's spaceship was hidden there the whole time, and she orders Hamsterville to surrender. Jesus Christ, those guns are massive, you're gonna blow them to bits with that. So Sparky invades the spaceship, which, yes, saves all of Stitch's so-called cousins, but it also lets Dr. Hamsterville get away. However, Lilo and Stitch are determined to save Stitch's cousins, so they sneak onto the ship to try and retrieve all 623 other experiments while it's going into space.
Well,
Now
Now
what?
what do we do?
We hope they can pull off another miracle.
Up in space, Lilo and Stitch then proceed to snatch the experiment pod off Hamsterville and troll Gantu with a game of catch. Lilo ends up releasing all 623 of her experiments onto Hawaii, but unfortunately they end up being imprisoned. It's just like that one scene in the Lego Batman movie, except without the sick rat. When they're both confronted by Hamster Wheel, there's another genuinely really funny moment involving him.
You think you're so... Phonebook! Phonebook!
Phone book. Yes, sir.
One second. You think you're so clever, don't you?
He tells them that he's going to clone Stitch and make his own personal army of them, which they actually bring back this idea in Leroy and Stitch, which I find really cool. Stitch is being held down by something that holds down his weight by 3001, since he can lift things that are 3000 times his weight. Is it bad that I kind of love this villain? And he plans to cut Stitch in half before cloning him. He's really pulling a Hank Scorpio here. I like that there's actual high stakes here, at least with Stitch. Lilo is just going to be teleported to a zoo in space or something. But luckily Sparky comes in clutch and frees Stitch. And he puts Hamsterville in the contraption instead. Well, at least he didn't turn it on. We get a goofy shot of Stitch running in a CGI environment, and he just kind of goofs around until he ends up finding the pod, and... Oh, he's too late. No wonder this is called Stitch the Movie, he's the only one who made it out alive. Actually, it was the wrong teleportation pod the whole time. That one was for some bologna Ruben was ordering. I gotta admit, it's actually really funny having that minute-long build-up just for him to go to the wrong teleportation pod and Lilo being perfectly fine. Anyway, he frees Lilo, but Gantu shows up, so they escape down to Earth. However, Gantu crash lands down there too, with Ruben by his side. Lilo and Stitch have managed to capture Hamsterville, which, let's be real, that didn't last long, and they ponder what they could do with Sparky. Remember that lighthouse that hasn't worked in years? Yeah, he turns that on. This is kind of like Pokemon, but instead of battling them, you put them to free labor. The Grand Councilwoman wants all the experiments destroyed, but Lilo insists that she'll find all of them replaced. She even calls her a cousin.
No, you ain't!
She'll have to turn all 623 of the experiments good and find them before they get wet. Unfortunately, some of them get wet, so this place is pretty doomed. They get in the car on the DVD cover as they drive into the camera. Oh yeah, Jumper and Pleakley also get left behind by the Grand Councilwoman.
I'll get the wig.
Wait, you mean you don't like doing that? And that was Stitch the Movie. All in all, pretty solid for what it is. It is quite obvious that it is setting up something else, and that it is straight to DVD, as you can tell by the downgraded animation. But the downgraded animation only really shows with the character animation, like there's still some really good looking CGI and lovely backgrounds here. Though there are moments at times where it holds on a shot for too long, or that a character is just standing dead still, or just doing like a stock pose of some sort. Still, the animation is pretty decent overall. Writing's also pretty decent too. Yeah, there are some really lousy jokes that don't land, but I actually found myself laughing a surprising amount of times. Yeah, it doesn't have the heart of the original, but it's still quite fun and I like the concept that it expands upon. Obviously the characters aren't as strong as they were in the original, but it's still nice getting to spend more time with them. I also love a couple of the new characters they introduced, like Dr. Hamsterville and especially my boy Ruben. I also feel like it served its purpose quite well, as it was intended as a pilot to the TV series and kind of to promote it. And you know what? Actually made me want to check out the TV series. I might even end up binging it this summer. I felt like discussing this movie because I know everybody is already discussing the original and the remake, so I felt like doing something different. Who knows, maybe I'll even discuss the other two straight-to-DVD movies they got. Although, to be brutally honest, I think I liked Leroy and Stitch slightly more. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in another year and 4 months.